Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday. I hope everyone's having a great day wherever you are in the world. I've had a fantastic day. It is 8 p.m. here in the UK. Before we bring on my guest, a couple of things. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's here live on YouTube. And thank you to everybody on YouTube that may watch this after the fact. I appreciate that not everyone can be here as it goes out live. And to everybody listening to this on the Anonymous Podcast Network, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate all the support. For anybody that wants to support the channel, we have memberships, super chats, and super stickers. But don't worry if you can't help out. If you do have any questions that you want to ask our guest, please pop them in the comments in the live chat and pop them in capital letters. One final thing, the documentary series that myself and Dan and Ash recently filmed in Colombia, the trailer is going to be released tomorrow at 2 p.m. GMT. You'll have to work that out wherever you are else in the world. I'm sorry, but look out for it on my Instagram, on my Twitter, and everywhere else. I cannot wait to share this with you guys. But that is all irrelevant right now. I would like to bring on our guest. I'm a big fan of this show and of this gentleman as well. So please welcome Mr. Thomas Winterton. Thomas, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for doing this. It really means a lot.
Oh, I'm excited to visit with you, especially when I found out that you're across the pond.
Yep. It spreads everywhere, man. The ranch is global. So, yeah, really exciting stuff.
It's crazy to think about.
Have you done much global interviews and things like that?
So I did a podcast with a gentleman in Scotland, I believe.
Oh, nice.
Excuse me. I'm just getting over a head cold and some pneumonia, so if I have to clear my throat, I apologize. But I did one over there with him, and then I did a interview in Poland, which was an interesting experience because it wasn't a live interview. What we did was like they submitted the questions, we had to translate, then I submit translation. We had to make sure, and I don't read Polish, so hopefully it came across the way that it was supposed to. But other than that, everything else has been stateside.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that we can share this with people over this side of the pond. I guess to start off, I'd just like to ask a simple question, which is, have you been on the ranch today?
I have not been on the ranch today. I actually will be on the ranch later today. I was on the ranch yesterday until, I was there till yesterday evening. So
excellent. And I know that from some of the things we've seen on the show and stuff, there are kind of quiet periods on the ranch, and then there are times when things kind of ramp up a little bit. So if you were to say at the moment, what's happening on the ranch, is it a quiet period or is there still sort of strange occurrences happening?
Actually, I would say that the last little while has been active. But I say that, the thing about the ranch, I tell people 9 out of 10 days you go on, you roll on the ranch 9 out of 10 times. It's calm. It's peaceful. The gate shuts behind you. I feel like I'm kind of locked away in my own world. I don't get good cell phone reception out there at all. So for the most part, when I enter the ranch, it's like entering this whole private little realm, and I love it. And then there's that 1 out of 10 where you roll on, and there's been times where just roll up to the gate, and whether it's the hair raising up, on your body, or just I've learned it's like being married. You're married long enough, you can start to tell the moods without having to ask the questions. You roll up the gate, and it's like, man, she's not in a good mood today. I don't know if I should be going on, and so there'll be once in a while you roll up and it's like, no, it's not happening today, and I'll turn around and leave.
Wow. So it can really go from just being in a beautiful place, an everyday kind of pleasant experience, to something that really just is the opposite. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, and I can't count the number of times where I've been there working and been working there all day and everything's great, and then it's like something shifts, something changes, and really rapidly, I've learned to listen, because when you don't listen, that's when it seems problems happen. Um, Especially if I'm out there, working on something by myself and I don't have somebody close by that can help me out. We've seen people go in catatonic states. We've seen people have some pretty severe physical reactions, and so I, I've I've learned I'm not going to tempt fate. So if I start feeling that way, I usually heed the warning signs. Now, if I'm with somebody, if we've got the group of us and we're doing something, that's different, because we've got a lot of instrumentation. That's when we really want to dig in and see if we can try to, capture the fingerprint of something that's going on. But if it's just me working out there during the day, on something, I'll usually heed those warnings and get off. But it can happen rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think for anyone familiar with the show knows that you've had some pretty serious injuries in the past. So to hear that you are working on your own in some instances, do you have, how would you go about contacting someone? You mentioned you have bad cell service and stuff. Like, are there still risks involved with being on your own on the ranch?
Well, and I need to qualify that statement. You're never truly alone on the ranch. Um, with all of our monitoring and everything. So whenever I'm on the ranch, one, security knows, and then we've got our scientist, Eric Bard, and I let him know, right? And he's really good at like keeping tabs on me and making sure that if I'm out irrigating, um, we generally don't let people go out by themselves. It's not a good idea, but frankly, at the end of the day, there's just some tasks that have to get done. And if I had to wait, we only get water, we to irrigate the land, to water the land. We don't get to choose those times that we get the water. They just tell us this is your turn, and you can either take the water or you can let it run down the ditch. And here in Utah, second driest state in the United States, every drop of water is precious. So that means that I'm out there on the ranch at uh, usually a good portion of our turn to take the water happens at night. And so if I'm sitting there trying to coordinate with other team members, it just becomes impractical. So I've kind of there are times that I go do my own thing, but I'm always careful. Like I check in with Eric, right? And security knows that I'm out there. And then we've got our caretakers that are there most of the time. And so uh help's never far away. Uh but if something bad's happening, sometimes 10 minutes can be the difference between something really bad and we've had individuals go into catatonic state, in which case I would be at the total mercy of Eric checking in, or Dragon or Caleb checking in and saying, okay, where is he at? Is he okay? And so there's look, I know when I go on that ranch, there's risks involved. It's something that I've accepted, and you have to look at the risk rewards and say the opportunity to be part of this team, the opportunity to be involved in this investigation carries risks, and I either accept them or I find something else to do.
No, that's fair enough. And I suppose you've been working together as a team for a few years now. So I suppose you form that bond, that cohesion where you naturally look out for one another and you're kind of almost hyper aware of what everyone's doing. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely, yeah. We have a very we call it ranch family. We're very close, and you do get a sense. I mean, we've been together now going on what, 6 years,
Yeah.
and you get a sense of the movement, and just over time we've developed policies and procedures and just habits that we follow. So we keep a close eye on each other, and that is part of it that helps mitigate the risk, because I know those guys got my back.
Excellent. And you've got your core team and that, and obviously Brandon we see in the TV series is seems to play an active role. But is that the same in reality? Is he constantly in touch with you guys or visiting the ranch on a regular basis?
Absolutely. Brandon's very hands-on. The thing I love about Brandon is he doesn't micromanage. So, excuse me. Uh, he's very successful. He's very busy businessman. And the great thing about Brandon is he assigns everybody their roles. and then he just trusts you that you're going to take care of that, and he doesn't micromanage. But we all are, we all check in with him on a regular basis. Eric's in touch with him on a daily basis, so he's very hands-on. Anytime something happens, there's not, I don't think that there's much that happens on that ranch that Brandon's not aware of.
Excellent, excellent. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to go into a few sort of more technical questions about things that we have seen through the TV show, and maybe things that we've heard on social media. And it's kind of to do with different experiments, I suppose, that you've done on the ranch that have kind of, for me personally, I've just wanted to ask more questions about them. Now, one thing that, I mean, I'm a UFO UAP guy, and yes, I'm interested in the kind of paranormal aspect as well. But with regards to the UAP side of the investigations, one thing you have done is utilize weather balloons, but you've not had a lot of luck with them because, sometimes they seem to have popped or not gone up to where you want them to. Do you put that down to bad luck, or do you genuinely believe that there is something affecting them?
Well, let me ask you, how many failures do you finally switch from bad luck to something's going on? What's that number?
Man, I'm on the spot now. That's a great question. I guess I don't really have an answer because I've not physically done it. But then now I guess I'll rephrase the question. Have you got past that period yourself where it becomes a bit too convenient that it's just luck?
So I came on the ranch as a very healthy skeptic.
Right.
My brain is wired more for skeptic, although I will say the ranch has done a fantastic job of helping me rewire some of that. And at the beginning, it's a coincidence or bad luck.
Right.
Oh yeah, and then 2 happens, and then 3 happens, and then 4, and you're like, man, this is a huge coincidence that all these things are taking place. And then at some point, you start looking stupid is what happens. And we talk about this at the ranch a lot. Like sometimes trying to reach for the mundane, right? For example, we'll talk UAPs for a second. You see a UAP of this guy, you're like, oh, it's just a plane. And then it moves sideways and you're like, oh, well, it's a helicopter. Then it drops down, you're like, oh, well, that's a drone. And then all of a sudden it appears from here to there so fast that you're like, we're not aware of any drone that can move that fast. At some point, you run out of things that can logically explain what you're witnessing, and you actually look more foolish trying to fit it into the known than you would if you just said, okay, that's a UAP, right?
Yeah.
So back to the weather balloon. We launched that weather balloon in season 1, and what you have to do is just Eric's been really good for our team in the fact that and I'm getting less and less to say, oh, well, it's got to be this or got to be that. It's here's the facts. You tell me what you think, because I'm tired of looking like a fool if I'm trying to fit it in a box that it doesn't belong in. That weather balloon was instrumented out with 2 separate GPS tracking devices, and we had Matt come out. He's an acquaintance of Travis Taylor's, and he's launched hundreds of weather balloons. So he's very, very experienced in this. It's why we bring experts out, is if we mess it up and it's our first one, it probably user error. We're trying to eliminate as many of the possibilities as we can. So we bring this expert on who has launched hundreds of weather balloons with this same type of equipment package. And interestingly enough, this was part of the fascination for me, was that specific launch that we lost the balloon. We're running into the later part of the day, and the winds are picking up. And while we were sitting there trying to get this thing ready, the winds were blowing. I mean, it was a pretty stiff breeze. And as we were sitting there preparing, I was joking with the guys. We were all joking. We're like, this thing's going to be Colorado before it even gets to that 5,000 foot mark, because the wind was blowing from the west towards the east. And just to give reference, we were probably, I don't know, we were several hundred feet to the south of the triangle there. and
Okay.
just a little bit east, right? So just a tad to the east and to the south of the triangle. And we've got winds that are blowing straight out of the east. And we had smaller balloons, just your regular birthday balloons that we would fill up, and we'd release them so we could get an idea of what the winds aloft were doing, right? So before we'd launch the big one, we'd let these little ones go and we'd see what was happening with it so we could have an expectation of what to expect. Well, these little ones are launching and they're just taking off towards the east. And so, but that's one of the issues with filming is to try to come back tomorrow and do it. It may not even work. Maybe tomorrow's raining or we've got something else scheduled for the next day. So it's now or never. So
Yeah.
we let this balloon go, and sure enough, it takes off to the east. But as it's quickly rising, and all of a sudden, it's like it almost makes a U-turn as it gets up into the winds aloft, and then it goes right up through the center of that triangle. I mean, so it kind of backtracked to the west a little bit and went north, which wasn't at all what the little balloons were doing, right? So
Right.
and now look, the winds can shift. I'm not saying they can't, but we let this balloon go and it goes right dead center of where it was that we wanted it to go. And so we're now tracking it on our electronic devices. We've got these GPS that are, and I can't remember if I don't remember what the response rate was, if it was once a second or once every minute. It almost seems like every 60 seconds it was transmitting.
Sure.
And Matt's never had a problem with these. Matter of fact, he was telling us about one that hit the ground and got ran over, and the thing still worked. He's like, these things are almost indestructible. We're talking about the GPS units, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's reporting fine. It's reporting fine. We're getting good data. And right when it gets up to the 5,000 foot mark where we triangulated that this energy is coming from, it quits transmitting. And it never transmits another. Now that's the hardened one. The second one continued to transmit for just a little bit longer, and then it went out. And to this day, we never found that balloon. We went out, searched for it for a while, and then there was a couple members of our production crew that searched, I think, for up to 2 weeks looking for that weather balloon. And when I say searched, I mean they were putting drones up. We were using we were using drones to see if we could spot it on the ground where it crashed. We'd done some triangulations and tried to figure out possible locations where it could be and try to narrow it down. And they searched all the way over to the Colorado, even into Colorado a little bit, looking for this balloon. So they searched a huge swath of ground, and we never found it.
That's so strange. Yeah. So bizarre. And we know that, like you said, there is anomalies when it kind of hits that altitude around 5,000 feet. But also, and you talk about the triangle area, we know that there seems to be anomalies under the ground. So let's stick with equipment going wrong, shall I say. Let's talk about the cell phones, because we've seen in the show Caleb's phone, for example, really doing some really strange stuff that almost doesn't seem possible because it's breaking through his passcodes and stuff like that. But are there other examples that we may not have seen in the TV show of equipment going wrong without any kind of logical explanation?
All the time. That's probably one of the our electronics malfunctioning is probably one of the most common occurrences, most common anomalies that we witness on the ranch. We seem to witness a lot of electromagnetic interference with things, whether it's drones that are malfunctioning, falling out of the sky, thinking they're places that they're not. Whether it's our cell phones, my cell phone is personally wigged out. I could give you one example. I was up on top of the mesa working on a set of cameras one day. This was a couple of years ago, and had another individual there that was just out kind of looking through the rocks below me. We're always looking for signs and stuff. And this is later in the afternoon, and This individual had a headlamp, a flashlight headlamp, and it had gone dead. And so rather than packing the bag and everything up the hill, just left it at the bottom of the hill. Well, I'm up there and I'm trying to troubleshoot these cameras that are having issues with Eric. And I'm up on a ladder and I've got my cell phone up there. I'm leaning against the ladder and I'm up there. And our ranch dog, our black Labrador ranch dog, William, he's up there at the base of my ladder, right? And so I'm up on this extension ladder and I'm texting back and forth with Eric, and we're trying to troubleshoot between he at this point he was actually running things that particular day. He was in his home office out on the Wasatch Front, and so but so I'm communicating with him and he's telling me try this, try that, and I'm up there trying to do this, and all of a sudden the dog starts whimpering. William is like, he's so mild mannered and it's so out of character for him. And I look down at him, I'm like, what's wrong, William? And he starts just really, really whimpering. I'm like, what the heck? Well, at that same time, I lose control of my phone. And what I mean by that is I had my message app because I was sitting there messaging Eric. The messaging app closes and it starts opening up other apps. And it's doing it, it's opening it up. And I go to close it and click it and it'll do something else. And I lost all control of the phone. And so I kept opening up the message app. I get into Eric and it would close it. And I'm like, what the heck? So I'm like, I can't communicate with Eric. The dog's down there whimpering. And I'm thinking, okay, this isn't working. So I climbed down the ladder and I yelled down to the other person. I'm like, hey, when you go down the command center, I can't communicate with Eric. I need to go in there and call him. And walk down to the bottom of the hill. Well, here's this bag just glowing. It's like it's pulsating. I'm like, what
Wow.
the heck? What's going on with that bag? Open it up. Well, there's that LED headlamp, which was dead,
Yeah.
and the light is so bright. I mean, it's pulsating brighter than if you put a fresh battery in there, right? I mean, this thing's and it's sitting there pulsating like. I'm like, what the heck? And so that's an incident of a time when my cell phone started misbehaving, the dog started whining, and then we've got this dead battery LED headlamp that just goes from dead to suddenly pulsing very, very bright. Though that's a good example of electronics. Everything from I've pulled up to the gate. I was driving to Vernal one day. I was taking my family to dinner over to Vernal, and I think I'd left my wallet in the command center. And so I was like, oh, just stop real quick. I got to grab my wallet. We pull up to the gate. I got my wife and kids in the car with me. And as a rule, my kids aren't allowed out there, right?
Right.
We don't let people go out there. But I'm like, I just got to grab my wallet. It's going to be a quick 1 minute in and out. Pull up to the gate. I'm in we have a 2012 Yukon Denali. And
Right.
I'm waiting for I punched the button. I'm waiting for the gate to open. And while I'm waiting, the radio turns itself on. And this lady it's a country song, a lady singing. And the exact lyrics is, as I pulled up to the gate in my GMC. And my kids are like, no way, Dad. And, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And so, I mean, everybody saw, nobody touched the radio. We didn't turn it on. I run in and grab my wallet. We spent the rest of the night. My kids are like doing lyric searches, trying to find a song that matches those. We never found it. If anybody else out there, your listeners, knows of a country song with a lady singing, I pulled up to the gate in my GMC, I would love to know what song that is. But
Wow.
strange stuff like that happens constantly.
So, like, for example, when things do malfunction like that, do you then go back to the command center and look for energy spikes or any kind of activity that may have been captured on the equipment you have in the control center?
Everything, uh, to the best of our ability, we try to report everything to Eric, regardless of how inconsequential it may seem to us. I'm not the scientist there. It's not up to
Sure.
me to determine what's important, what's not important. Anytime anything out of the ordinary appears to happen, we're all instructed to let Eric know, Eric is meticulous and very detailed. He'll collect the data, and then maybe it helps out, maybe it doesn't, but it also allows him. And now I have to say, we were all skeptical when we started this, and this has been a journey for all of us. We're not professional paranormal investigators. I didn't go to college for that, neither did anybody else, right? And so there's been a learning curve here of, oh, something's happening. I need to have presence of mind to get a timestamp, right?
Yeah.
That's so critical. But, and it sounds simple, and yet I have to admit, like, I'm well into my time at the ranch before I finally have gotten to the point where something happens. I'm like, timestamp, and sometimes it requires notes so that I can tell Eric, go back and look at the equipment. Did we see an RF spike? Did we see gamma rays? Did we see something on the cameras? And so, yeah, you're right. Like, we always report that. And then that gives Eric the ability to go back and say, did we see anything happening across the ranch? Was there an RF spike? Can we explain this phone going crazy with maybe a high spike? The problem with the RF, though, I mean, we've got tri-field meters that do the RF, but when we're talking about spectrum analyzers, the spectrum is so massive that to try to watch the entire spectrum is the data that it requires. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack is what it's like.
Yeah, sure. I just want to take a second to thank Mr. Gary Voorhees Jr. Thank you for the $20, Gary. Gary says, I will forever be grateful to Thomas and Dragon for saving Jason. Now, it's no secret that the guys at UAPX have visited the ranch in the past year. Whether you can talk that much about it, maybe not. But can you talk about what it was like meeting those guys and working with them on general terms?
Well, I could just say, being in my position, I can neither confirm nor deny their visit, but I can confirm I have met them, and I'll tell you, very impressed. I mean, we're talking about no nonsense individuals. Look, I like getting around people that I feel are grounded, that aren't chasing you. I don't like it when I get around people I feel preconceived agendas. Like,
sure,
if you have an agenda to prove it's true or an agenda to prove it's not true, I'm as skeptical of both ends of the spectrum, right? I like people that are grounded and that just says, we'll go wherever the data takes us. And in meeting those individuals, that's really the way I felt was, I felt like I was dealing with like-minded individuals. It's like, we're just going to follow the data and, see where it takes us. And to meet them, to hear of their own personal experiences, I'm a big fan. I'll say that.
That's great to hear. And we obviously, they've got some great work due to drop soon, I think. So I think everybody's looking forward to that. So Gary, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it. Moving on to one thing that really, really stood out to me, and I think this was in season 2, was the time when the rabbi was brought out to perform the ancient ritual just out away from Homestead 2. And what we saw on the show was obviously this thing forming. I think it was above a doorway that, I guess I'm just going to say it looked like a portal, which we know has been reported on the ranch before. Temperature drops drastically. I mean, I have so many questions. I can't pinpoint one, but what was anything ever? Did that investigation go on for a lot longer than we saw? Were there any conclusions formed? Like, where are you with that kind of strange activity?
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions too. It seems for every one answer we get, we create 100 more questions. So to answer your question, yes, that exercise has caught our attention a lot. And again, what we've been dealing with out there a lot is electromagnetic interference frequency, right? And so when Rabbi Ariel's talking about how his culture, the Jewish culture, has tonal technologies that can open portals, it gets our attention. And again, like, I'm sorry, but I'm skeptical when we go out
Sure.
there. You hear him start doing his chant, and we're all sitting there watching. And yeah, you got to realize what you're seeing on TV. We film for months,
Yeah.
and it's taken down. Let's see, that was season 2, so we had 10 episodes. Okay, and I want the listeners to understand. So we film for months, and when I say we film, I mean we're filming minimum 5 days a week, and we're on that ranch. There's been times where we filmed like 16 hours through. Like, our filming days are long, and when we're not filming, we're getting ready for the next experiment. There are so many. There were so many times during filming, during our filming interval, where we would put in long hours filming. We would finish. Then our team's dead tired, but we've got an experiment planned. We're bringing so and so in from across the United States, and they're going to be here at 8 a.m. and we need to be ready to execute this experiment.
Yeah.
And so what happens is we get done filming, and then we literally will spend the rest of the night preparing for the experiment, right? And then, like, it's like, oh, the sun's back up. I need to run home and shower and get ready so we could start filming again. And so the whole point of this is we're talking about months of experiments and film, and then we have to condense it down to 10 episodes. And I don't know what the exact minute count is, somewhere 43 or 47 minutes. Somebody can check that next time when they're looking, but 430 minutes. And when you look at the amount of time, the amount of film that we did, we're talking about 1%. So what you're seeing on TV is like the exciting parts, the highlights, the parts that are going to captivate the audience. What you don't see is the hours and hours of prep leading up to it. And sometimes during the experiment, the hours that we did during it, in case of point, the rabbi, yeah, we spent a lot of time there, right? And then, of course, the long analyzed period that takes. Eric spends months after we finish filming. I mean, months, and Travis too, but mainly Eric, analyzing and sifting through the mountains of data. And so as far as the rabbi, we repeated that twice. The first time we did it, we was live with the rabbi.
Yeah.
And it was a warmer night. And what ended up happening is we saw this vortex of cold air that just kind of, like, I mean, it's not like it floated in and floated out. We're watching this thermographic camera and the flare, and all of a sudden you just start seeing this start materializing, and it creates this big black hole. Well, the black hole, we ran down there, and I tell you, as an individual running into that, I grew up, my family has a grocery business, and I grew up walking into the deep freeze from,
Okay.
I know what that's like, going straight into the 10 below zero. This was different. This cold, like, goes through you. It's like humid cold. It penetrated, and it was bone chilling, and it was just like a wall. Obviously we couldn't see anything with our naked eye. All this is being picked up on the camera. But, I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, we hear about portals, but I don't even know what a portal looks like. Like, would I know a portal if I saw one? And so you see the thermographic camera, you see this black vortex. Well, then we repeated it. We repeated it a short time later, and the second time we did it, it was cooler outside. Like, I believe the thermometer was 43 or 47 degrees. So, I mean, it's cold. And the opposite thing happened. We had a vortex of warm air that materialized, same spot, right? So part of the scientific method, the scientific method is being able to repeat your results. So without going in and giving away anything else, just know, like, anytime that we can produce a repeatable effect. Now, twice is not enough to say it could have been a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that happens is that means we need to create a baseline. would we see that normally if we didn't play a chant? Does it happen to be something about that particular geographic location or the trees or something in the physical makeup? So what it does is it creates a lot of groundwork for us. We got to go get a really good solid baseline. How does it behave normally? And then repeat the experiment more, because again, twice could be a coincidence maybe. But it is fascinating that we did it twice and we got the inverse reaction, but it was the same basic thing.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I just want to reiterate for everybody watching this live, if you do have questions, please pop them in capital letters, because I'm switching between talking with Thomas, checking my notes, and checking the live chat. It's quite difficult to catch every question, but capital letters will give you the best chance to get them, and I will note them and ask them towards the end of the interview. So thank you. Thomas, another thing, you used alpacas at one point to bring in. Now, I don't know whether that was or what the reason was, but one thing that was shown in the series was that there was a time where you discovered they'd been attacked and there were bite marks. Did anything ever get, did that get sorted? Did you find out what had done the bites? Was it, a prosaic? Was it a coyote or anything like that? Or was it kind of anomalous?
Okay, so I'm going to have to be very politically careful here. Here's the thing. We always want to be completely transparent. And that was, I love the professionals that we work with the production team, the entire group from the top down. At first it was Kevin Burns, and then, Kevin passed away, and now we have Joe Lassard and Kim Shear. They're all professionals from the top down, and I have nothing but admiration. And I mean, this group of people we couldn't ask for any better, right?
Sure.
And one of the agreements when we went into this was that we were never to fabricate. Brandon was crystal clear. Like, if you're going to come in and document our investigation, then you're going to document it. We're not fabricating anything. We're not going to embellish anything. Are we willing to reenact something that maybe wasn't caught on camera, as long as it's factually correct to what really happened, right? We're not going to recreate and embellish.
Of course.
Our scientists, Eric and Travis, were like, we got too much on the line credibility wise to be fabricating.
Yeah.
That being said, you also have to allow a little bit of, if you were to watch just the pure science on TV, our ratings would probably be, the 100 people out there in the world that dig that kind of thing. But your average person coming home from work that just wants to turn the TV on and be entertained is not going to like that. So there has to be a give and take. They add in their music. Sometimes we laugh because you get the looks, like, oh, yeah, and you're like, wait a second here, right? We gotta add the drama in. The Alpaca episode is one, and it's been a learning experience for all of us. But that's one where we got a little bit upset. Did they lie? No, they didn't, because you can edit me to make me look, say, and do almost anything. They have a camera on me 16 hours of the day.
Yeah.
They have enough probably to sink me forever. Right. So with the alpacas, here's the facts that we have of the alpacas. Did the camera facing that direction work? No, it didn't. Do we know why? No, we don't. Is that strange? Yes, it is. Was that the only camera on Skinwalker Ranch during that? No, it wasn't. So were we able to get other camera angles? Not of the corral per se, right?
Right.
But did we have other angles of coming and going off the ranch that maybe allowed us to see what that was? Yes, we did. And so it was played off as if we weren't sure what it was. And yet, it was a pack of tribal dogs that had come in, right? And that attacked the alpacas. Now, there's nothing strange about tribal dogs attacking alpacas, except for, and this is where we're telling them, like, guys, in the future, like, let's frame this a little bit different. And rather than the way it was framed, which I have to say our team was a little upset about the way that once, and I'll tell you, it's only been that one episode. We've been fine with pretty much everything else. That one episode, here's the things is we've had animals up to that point. We'd had animals on that ranch for a couple of years and nothing's touched them. We had calves there, we've had other animals on that ranch, and those dogs I see those dogs every day when I come in and out. They've stayed put. They haven't attacked anything. We bring the alpacas on, and literally we have them in the corral right by the command center, and within less than 12 hours of them arriving at the ranch, here comes this pack and attacks them. That I find kind of strange. Like,
Yeah.
did something affect those dogs that made them? Were the alpacas carrying a scent that I don't know what it was? And why did that camera quit working? Right. So there are definitely strange things surrounding that whole incident. We don't know why we can go a couple of years and never have so much as a hiccup. And then bam, we bring on alpacas, this exotic meat, as we joke, these exotic animals. And look, we're all of us on there are animal lovers. And this was the other thing is like, we would never intentionally try to put an animal in harm's way. Do we have the animals on there for biosensors? Have there been cattle mutilations there? Yes. Are we curious about that? Absolutely. But are we out there like intentionally trying to put animals in harm's way so that we can advance science? Absolutely not. And we actually had the alpacas closest to the command center, literally, like we're talking less than 50 feet away from the command center. Here's the alpacas for the night. They get attacked. We don't know why the camera misbehaved. And I definitely don't understand why those dogs, which came on and attacked, why did they choose? What made them do it? Right. It wasn't a characteristic with the other 3 years of baseline that we had.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a long explanation, but I don't want to say, I have to be careful. Like, it wasn't fabricated, but the way that things can be perceived is amazing through editing, right?
No, absolutely. I'm with you. I really do it. I appreciate you going into that kind of depth of detail. So thank you. Now I'm just going to ask you this question, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to check on my daughter. So I will hear the answer through these, but I'm going to ask you. My good friend Benji asks, Thomas, how has your experiences at the ranch changed your personal outlook on life, the world, and your relationship with others?
It's a great question. So it's completely changed it. The world I wake up in now is completely different than the world that I used to wake up before the ranch. And I do get asked this quite a bit. And whoops. Oh, great. Are you still there?
Yeah, just had to check on my daughter. Sorry, she's okay. You okay?
Something happened. As long as you can see me, my computer just went blank. You can hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Can you see me?
I can see you, yeah.
Okay, well, I can't see you anymore, but I'm staring at a blank screen. It's fine. As long as your end's good, we're good. I'm staring at a it's blurry. It's like a blank, blurry screen. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Back to your question. I've witnessed too many things on the ranch that I can't explain. Probably the most traumatic thing that happened to me was my head injury, which, they talk a little bit about on the show. There's so much to my head injury that took place. There's the physical aspects. There's the psychological things that took place during that. There's been the investigation on it that's happened since. And it's hard to say which aspect has been most disturbing. I'd say the physical part, which was absolutely the most horrendous thing I've experienced physically in my life. The pain was undescribable. They show on TV, they show the bump on the back of my head. Well, that specific brain scan I think it looks really dramatic in that. I think that's why they chose that one, or maybe that's the only one I gave them. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, because they asked for them. And I shared some with them, but that particular scan happens to be after I was operated on. So
Right.
my head I had fluid that came in and completely separated the fatty tissue from my skull, to where like by the end of the second or third day, I could grab my hair and walk my head around. It wasn't attached, so I could grab
Wow.
it and move it around. It was completely, and they came in and did an incision on the back, and so that it could drain out, and so everything like the fluid and everything pulled back to that spot. And I get a lot of questions on this online. They're like, "Oh, you say that the injury happened on the back. The injury was back here on the back of my head, and yet the CAT scan shows it up on the top." And they're like, you're not even pointing to the same place. Well, that's because that is actually where they put the little wick in, that, and so all that fluid and everything was coming back to that spot, and that particular brain scan shows that pulled up right there. But it happened all over my head, and it was very traumatic. I'm not to the point yet that I feel comfortable talking about it much in public.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe that'll change in the future. I don't know. But that that experience changed. It changed almost everything for me. So I witnessed and experienced too much to be the same person as I was before, and so I've come to the conclusion that there's a lot in this world we don't understand. That's how I compartmentalize it.
That's a great answer, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. It must be difficult to relive and go through those kind of things. So it is really appreciated. Now that small technical issue that we just had right there just automatically pinged in my head something like hitchhiker effect or something like that. Is that something that you have experienced personally, where you've gone home and you've had strange things happen, like you've taken it home with you?
That's been the worst part of being associated with the ranch is,
Wow.
yes, we've had many, many traumatic things happen at home. Unfortunately, my wife and kids have been affected. Um, and, I can handle, if stuff happens to me, that's fine. It was my personal choice to be involved. Now, did I know what I was getting into? I absolutely didn't.
Sure.
There's part of me sometimes that wishes I would have taken it more serious when I went on. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. I don't believe in looking back and saying what if.
Yeah.
Um, it is what it is. The unfortunate thing is that by the time I realized it was real, it was too late. And yes, we've had more traumatic things happen at my house in the privacy of my home than uh, unfortunately it's the part that in some ways breaks my heart. I had my son pull me aside before we started filming season 2, and he pulled me aside and he's like, "Dad, like, are you sure it's all worth it?" And I had to really pause and think about that. And the issue with the hitchhiker effect is, if I thought that I could leave that ranch and it would leave me alone, if I could leave the ranch and the ranch would leave me, I I would seriously consider doing it for the sake
Wow.
of my family.
Yeah.
Um, the unfortunate thing is we have a lot of examples of individuals that have been on that ranch who took the hitchhiker effect home. And long after they disassociated with the ranch, and when I say disassociated, some of these individuals have gone to pretty far extremes, you know, burning clothes and stuff. I don't know if they've literally burned clothes, but I'm just saying they've gone to extremes. Anything associated with the ranch, they've ridded themselves of, and smudged themselves, trying to put distance between them and the ranch, and to no avail. So I look at that and I say, well, I see a lot of examples here of individuals that tried to leave the ranch, but the ranch never left them alone. And so if I can't be guaranteed that me exiting the ranch is going to guarantee that my family is going to be left alone, then if we're going to continue to be terrorized, I might as well be in the middle of it and trying to find answers,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what it is that's affecting us. I actually think it'd be worse if I leave the ranch and then my family continues to suffer the effects of the ranch, but I have no connection, no communication with the scientist. I don't have a team behind me that I can lean on. There's sometimes things happen at my house and they make us feel like we're going crazy, like we're losing touch with reality. And there are some days the only comforting thing is to be able to reach out to a team member and say, hey, Dragon, hey, Eric, hey, Caleb, hey, Travis, or whoever it is, and have them say, oh my gosh, we had the same thing happen here, or we're experiencing this, and to be able to lean on each other and realize we're not going crazy. We're all experiencing the same thing. We tell people the ranch isn't something that can be explained. It has to be something that's experienced. And it's kind of a small fraternity of people that have been there. And so that's one of the things that keeps me going back, because I'm like, I tell people when I went on the ranch, I didn't realize it's like the mob. There's only one way out. And so it is what it is.
No, I really appreciate you saying that, and it really resonates with me. Being a father, I can only begin to imagine what you've been through. So again, I have to thank you for sharing that with us. It really means a lot. So thank you. Julie Bowen asks, have you used music to try and communicate or cause reactions with the phenomena?
Well, I'll just say there's the official science investigation that the scientists are looking at. And of course, everything happens there goes into the database, right? You can't separate. We tell people once you come on the ranch, you are part of it, because, right. So I'm not trying to separate it out, but I will say my wife is extremely gifted with music and frequency. She has an extreme gift. I've talked about it on other podcasts before. So we have a company surrounding it, Resonance Meditations. So music and frequency plays a huge part in my life personally, with my wife being gifted like she is. Where it's amazing what frequency can do. And because of our research in regards to her company and what's being done with sound, in terms of healing, in terms of interacting with the world around us, everything's frequency. Albert Einstein proved that mathematically, and as such, it only makes sense that music and that can have an effect. So that being said, kind of a long answer to the question is, because of that connection I have personally, that's something that's always on my mind. And I'll say that it's something that's discussed often among us at the ranch. And I have, yes, I'm trying to be careful here. This is one of those areas I just need to,
Sure. No problem at all.
With the upcoming season, we'll see.
Yeah. No, that's good. Good. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Jay Allen asks, would you mind asking if they have installed any new sensor systems recently? Any new telemetry data?
If we've installed any new stuff?
Any new sensor systems? And I guess the second question is there any new telemetry data?
So we are always upgrading. As a matter of fact, as soon as we got done filming season 3, Eric and I personally underwent a huge, I'm not going to call it renovation, but every year we find ways that we can improve our systems, maybe holes that we had because of data that we get. We find, we need to be watching this area, or we need to be watching for this. The challenges with the ranch is it's remote, first of all. And we're trying to have minimal impact on the lands. And then you add in the fact that even though Brandon has done very well and is a very wealthy individual, we still operate on a budget, right? So sure. We still have to be frugal with our funds. And so all those things combined lend to an interesting dynamic in the fact that when we want to upgrade our systems, which we're always doing, we have to figure out a way to get power and network out in the middle of nowhere to run these things. Eric, we tried to set up a Wi-Fi mesh at one point early on. It was recommended, we thought, well, maybe that'd be a good way to do it. But unfortunately, because of the electronic interference that we deal with out there, we could never keep it up. We couldn't keep the Wi-Fi mesh up. It was so unreliable, and it, to be honest, I don't think that we got anything out of it. So we've kind of learned we have to hardwire everything that we have. And so, yes, we are always upgrading. And as soon as we got done filming, Eric and I actually underwent a pretty extensive upgrade this off season. We've been in the middle of upgrading a lot of things, new sensors, new equipment, new areas of the ranch that we hadn't previously been able to get to. And that's still in the works even today. So we're always adding, we're always improving. Brandon's been very supportive. You know, this is an endeavor that's not publicly financed. So when we buy new cameras, when we put in systems, well, that came from Brandon's hard-earned money. That's private money there. So we're always careful with it. But Brandon's been very, very good and very supportive in trying to help us make sure that we have what we need.
Excellent. Excuse me. Couple more questions before I let you go. Like I said, I really appreciate your time. Tina McLaren asks, is there any one specific type of activity that makes you more uncomfortable than the rest?
A specific activity type?
Or a specific aspect of the phenomena that's more worrying than you know?
Yes, there is. And I'll be honest, I just discovered it this last summer. I didn't know it existed. That's all I could say about it. And I'll just say, stay tuned for the upcoming season to air, because I would imagine that that you're going to see what it is. And I'll just say I didn't sleep for several nights after discovering this.
Wow. Cliffhanger. Wow. I mean, that kind of leads into my final question, which was, what can we expect from season 3?
Season 3 was intense.
Right.
And I'll be honest, again, going back to what I explained before, we filmed so much. I'm going to be just as surprised as the audience when we sit down and we're watching these episodes air. I don't know what's going to make it. What 1% are they going to show? I'm glad I don't have their job, because season 3 gave us so much material that I can't say for sure what will make it and what won't. But season 3 is gonna be intense. I've been excited the other 2 seasons. Season 1 was special. I mean, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, or if you told me a few years ago that I was going to be on TV, I would have laughed in your face. I'm just a small rural boy here in Utah. Never even thought about doing Hollywood TV, any of this. This was so far removed. So season 1 was exciting. I get to see myself on TV. That was kind of cool. But the excitement for season 1 and 2 doesn't even begin to compare to how excited I am for season 3. Season 3 takes a cake by far. I cannot wait to see what is unveiled, because the thing is, to see after season 3 airs and we know what did and didn't show, we're free to. It's kind of like talking about those alpacas now, right? Like, could have never talked about that before it aired, but now that it's aired, it gives us a lot of liberty to go beyond what was or wasn't shown.
Excellent. And do we have a release date for season 3 or a premiere date?
To my knowledge, I don't think that they've released one yet. And I'm not privy to that. So I'm guessing just like everybody else, but I know like season 1 and 2, if my memory serves me right, I think season 1 started airing like the end of March. And then season 2 was the beginning of May. So in my mind, I'm thinking that, it should drop here within the next couple months soon.
I've heard rumors of early May, so let's hope that's the case. Well, listen, Thomas, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really do appreciate it. It's been fascinating. I hope you'll come back when season 3, maybe midway through or towards the end, we'll do this again, and you may be able to, talk us through some of the new findings that have happened. I know you've got a limited time, so I'll let you go, and then I'll sort of say goodbye to my chat here. But is there anything you want to say before you go? I hope you've had a good time.
Oh, it's been great. I have to say, I did one other podcast with an individual over. I think they were in Scotland, and the thing is, I didn't really realize it until it took place. And the thought that this show is global, is kind of for me, it's inspiring to think that this is not just a show that's regional, but that it's international. And so I appreciate you reaching out and making contact. And I'm always happy. I'll be happy to come on again sometime in the future if you'd like.
Thank you. Oh, 100%.
We wouldn't look. The investigation is going to continue, whether the TV show continues or not. That's not going to have any effect on our investigation. The investigation moves forward. It was happening before the show. It'll happen after the show. But it is a lot of fun to be able to show people the highlights of some of the things that we're witnessing out there. And the TV shows brought a lot of awareness to the arena. My goal or my hope is that hopefully by applying science to this arena, we can start to bring it mainstream and make it so it's less stigmatized, bring a little more credibility to the area, maybe start divining some parameters upon which things are based upon, bring some structure to it, right? And because really it's the only way we're going to figure it out. And when I was never in the paranormal space before the ranch, and as I started to come into it, I'm like, wow, like this is kind of like a space for which you can claim anything, prove nothing, and have the entire audience follow you. It just was mind-boggling to me. And so my hope is, like, we really want to apply the science into this. We live in an amazing world. There's a lot happening that we're actually a very primitive species, and it's arrogant for us to think that we've got it all figured out. And so, or that we're even alone in the universe. So hopefully we can use our primitive scientific methods. And the hope is maybe we can make some advancements. If we can start to figure out what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch and at some of these other places around the world, then maybe it enables us to advance our science. And then that obviously helps us better our quality of life. And so I appreciate our fans. I get really long-winded. Sorry. I really appreciate our
fans.
fans.
I love it. I love it.
Without the fans and without the people watching the show, there's no show. And then it just sets back our ability to try to, again, bring awareness, bring credibility. These are really our goals. So I appreciate each person that tunes in and watches. We appreciate you a lot, and anything we can do to engage our fans. I'll tell you, Brandon is very interactive on social media.
Yeah.
You jump on Twitter, he's constantly replying to people. He's good on Facebook and Instagram. Social media has been something I've had to learn. It's an acquired taste for me. I'm getting better at it, but I tend to go hot and cold on it. But
sure.
any interaction we can have with people in the space, we're happy to have. So we appreciate all of you.
Fantastic. I'll say thank you once again, and thank you to everybody that's watched this live and commented and asked questions, and thank you to everybody watching after the fact, whether it be on YouTube or listening through the Anomalous Podcast Network. I really appreciate you all. And finally, before we go, I'd just like to reiterate that the trailer for our upcoming documentary series Phenomenology is going to be released tomorrow. The trailer, you can find the link in the description below here on YouTube. For now, guys, thank you so much. I will see you in a few days' time for another interview, but thank you to Thomas and everyone. I really appreciate all the support and hope you have a good rest of your day. For now, we'll see you later. Goodbye.